Where are you? So, hello and welcome to another video. I'm out tonight. It's going to be probably a very short video because I'm only going to be out for only like half an hour or so, and I'm only just going to be climbing up that rock that's behind me, and I'm going to have a little go at the Milky Way, which is just behind me there. So what I think I'll end up doing is making this probably an editing video. I'm at a place called Brimham Rocks, which I've been to a few times before, and I've shot in this exact location a few times before, but I've never shot with a tracker. Now, the Milky Way is really faint here, it's quite light polluted, but again, with a tracker and stacked, it might be all right. So we'll give it a go, we'll see. Wow, it's actually quite dark. Okay, so this probably isn't all that smart. I'm right on top of a rock and I've just perched on the edge. But the reason for that is that I'm trying to get just above this tree line that's here as much as I possibly can, so I can get above it with the tracker, because just from the road I'm just going to get a tree. So yeah, fingers crossed. I'm on the 14mm. I'm going to get as many exposures of the Milky Way as I can, and then all I'm going to do is just shoot from here that way and get a foreground, and then add them together, and then that'll be the tutorial at the end of this, I guess. That'll do. I got 22-minute exposures, and that's it. I'm just going to call it at that. I was really struggling to get the balance right for the exposure because the light pollution is blowing out the core, but then I was getting the Cygnus region of the Milky Way that was underexposed, so I struggled with it, but that'll do. I'm going to go back and check. I took a couple foreground shots. We'll see if it's any good and if it's worth doing an edit for. Right, let's do some editing, shall we? Firstly, there's a few reasons why I've not been putting out any editing videos recently. Firstly is that they take ages to film and to edit, and they get hardly any views, so you think, what's the point? But a couple of people have asked me now to do an editing video, so I'm doing it because I want to offer some value. Also, the reason why is I've only just got the tracker really. I've only had it for like a few months, and I'm not really in a position to be, my workflow isn't at a place where I can really teach it, to be honest, because I'll edit a photo now. If I were to do the same thing again later or tomorrow, it'll probably come out looking different. So all I'm going to do is just show you what my current workflow is. And lastly, the reason why I've not done it is because I've started using some paid software. So I've started using Astro Panel to help edit my photos, and I don't really like to show tutorials on paid software because it means that not everyone can be included. It means that you have to go and buy something to be able to do the same editing workflow as me. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to show you my current workflow in Astro Panel as quick as I can, but including everything that I can, and then I will do the same thing just in Photoshop and try and get a similar result without having to use a paid plugin. Right, so let's crack on. This is the first of the shots where I've framed it up, and I'm going to start tracking at this point. So I've got 11 shots, but as I go through them, you can see that there's cloud coming through, and I've tried stacking these already with the cloud, and it just makes a mess of the edit. So I'm actually going to delete the ones where the cloud is covering the core. So that one's all right, that one's all right, that one's all right. That one is going to have to go because of the cloud on the core. That one as well. That one as well. I didn't realise this at the time. That one's probably okay. So we've got 7 shots left. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is do a quick little edit. And all I'm going to do is do the white balance, which you could do by just using the little dropper, if you can find something that's white. There you go, that's probably all right. And then all I'm going to do is just some tiny adjustments. I'm going to take that sharpening down. I'm going to turn the noise reduction off. I'm not going to put the profile corrections on, but I will correct some of the vignetting. That's it. I think that'll do for now. Then I'm going to sync that across these pics. And then I am going to export them so that I can stack them. Choose, and I'm going to select TIFF, export them as TIFFs. It's going to be a long video. You can probably hear the laptop as well, it's not happy. So basically, yeah, I started using Astro Panel. I got it on sale, got it quite cheap, and when I first started playing with it, it was when I was still not using a tracker, I was just using camera on tripod, and I didn't find it any use, to be honest. I didn't bother using it, but then I found that when I started tracking and I started using it, I found it really helpful. So it's just, yeah, it makes the workflow so much quicker, as I'll show you, but it's still possible to get the images looking good without having to buy anything additional. But right, so let's jump into Starry Landscape Stacker. I'm going to open these images. Okay, so it asks for the focal length because the 14mm Samyang hasn't got any contacts into the camera, so it doesn't know the focal length. So I'll set the focal length, and then it normally does a really good job at this, but Starry Landscape Stacker puts red dots where it thinks the sky is, and then it doesn't where it thinks the ground is. All you do is click Find Sky, and then you can either add in more sky or take away more sky just by doing that. It's really straightforward. It's a really simple app. It is great, but it is paid again. You could do this in Photoshop. I could show you that. I think I've done it in another vid. I might show you it quickly. We'll just do this first. Right, so once you're happy that it's selected the sky and the ground, paint that in. Then all you do is click Align and Composite. So that'll spit out the final image, save current image, just stick it on the desktop, it'll save it as a TIFF. So at that point, you could either save it, you could import it back into Lightroom if you want to do some more adjustments, or open it straight in Photoshop, which I think is what we'll do. So shall I show you just very quickly then, these images to stack in Photoshop would be select them all, right click them, edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. I just don't think that Photoshop does as good a job with stacking as Starry Landscape Stacker does, especially if there's multiple images. If you've only got a few, like I say, up to 5, it's okay, just still not as good. So we're going to open all these layers. I think we are there, so that's all of them. Then go up to Edit, Auto Align, click Auto, click OK. Okay, it's done its thing. Then you go to Layer, Smart Objects, Convert to Smart Object. Okay, there we go. So it's now Smart Objects. Then go back to Layer, Smart Objects, Stack Mode, and choose Mean or Median. You get slightly different results, so check them both, see which one you prefer. I'm finding this tedious already. Well, the laptop hates it. I will do more videos as well on the Sony being Astro modified, and also the tracker, like setting up and things like that. Like I don't like how that looks there as median, so we're going to go mean. It's done a really bad job. It's just not words at all. Just not words at all. That's really not worked. So hence why I'm using Starry Landscape Stacker. But that's how you get the idea. I think it's because it stitched it to a panorama, and then I asked it to go median on them all. But that's the workflow on that one anyway. Okay, and let's open that TIFF that we've just made. So here it is. I'm going to go through quickly now the Astro panel. Okay, the first thing I do is click Remove Haze. Next thing I'll do is do a stretch, and I'll either go under or dynamic on this one. And then I forgot, I usually flatten the image in between. Next thing I'll do is I'll pull up levels, which is Command and L, and just make that a bit darker. Not too much. Okay on that. Pro. Sometimes as well we'll use Camera Raw. And just pop a little dehaze onto it. And maybe start messing with the colour balance a bit on this. Okay. Right, next one then. I usually do Contrast Pro. See the difference there? It looks really good. Enhanced Sharpness Nebula. What I like about this as well is you can set these, you do these actions and then you can set the opacity of the layer if you don't want it to be as harsh. It is good. I like the contrast in the Milky Way there, but not in the rest of the image. So you can see it has a little layer mask there. So I'm just going to get a brush, big brush, and paint in black here to take contrast out of the rest of the image. See some weird bandings going on at the top there. The next one is going to take literally ages, and that one, but it is really good, is this Remove Stars. So this is really taking a while. Maybe this workflow isn't quicker then, it's just easier with a few clicks. But yeah, this is taking ages. You can tell a massive difference that that has made, and what you can tell is that it takes out, it brings in, sorry, all of this detail in the dust clouds in the Milky Way. So yeah, so as I said, if you don't like necessarily how it all looks, you can pull down the opacity of that layer. Can you see it bringing the stars back in? So what I like to do is put a layer mask on that layer and then just paint through any of the brighter ones that you want to keep in. With a black brush. That's probably about it, to be fair. So, flatten image again. I think I might try just one more stretch on that. Dynamic stretch. Flatten the image. I might try raw filter and just a little bit more dehaze on there. I'll pull those highlights down. A little bit more contrast. Okay, so almost there. At this point, what I normally do then is dodge and burn. So dodge will brighten the highlights, and I've got this on 2% exposure and a relatively soft brush, and just give it a light painting over. You do want to be careful because it's very easy to overdo this. Just look like a Milky Way streak through the sky. It looks really bad. Okay, and then I go to burn, and this one's just on 1% exposure. And what that's going to do is start to bring out these dust lanes. That is basically it. I am going to go back into raw. I'm not quite happy with the temperature of it all. It's too much. There's a lot of green in this. Down again. I'm going to bring the whites up a bit, chuck some clarity in it, maybe a little bit more dehaze. Actually pull the dehaze out of it and put a bit more contrast in instead. Okay. So you get the idea. So that is my Milky Way edited. What I'll do now then is do it again, but not use Astro Panel at all. So right, so I'm going to pull back in that stack. Then we can pull that one back in. Okay, so here we are. So what I'm going to do is use Camera Raw filter. I'm going to pull the highlights down, pull those whites up, pull some more clarity in, dehaze. Okay, and the first thing I'm going to do then is stretch the image. So I'm going to bring up the curves by Command and M. I'm just going to stretch that image. And then I'm going to bring the highlights down. Okay, and then I think we will try the levels, Command and L, rather than, oh, we're going a bit too far there. Cancel that, let's try Camera Raw filter again and doing dehaze on it. Pull those highlights down again, pull those whites up. Okay, I might try one more little stretch. And let's try Command and L, let's try those curves. Okay. Right then, so what I'm going to try is remove the stars, but manually. And I got this from Astro Backyard, from a video that he's done. So I'll link that down below. So basically how to select the stars and remove them in this is we go to Select at the top, then go to Color Range, select Highlights. You change the range to pick up more of the stars. But you can see there's some Milky Way there, so I'm not going to select all of them. And you can change the fuzziness as well, but I'm just going to leave it where it is. Click OK on that. That's then selected those stars. Then we're going to go to Select and Modify and Expand. Then expand by 2. Click OK. Then we're going to go back to Select and Modify, then go down to Feather, and we're going to change that to 2 as well. Click OK. Then back to Select, Select and Mask, and this is going to show you all of your stars. So you can change how it shows at you, black and white or overlay. I'll just leave it on overlay. If you need to remove any of this on the selection, then you go to the minus and select the brush. Oh, and then hold down Alt and then click, and that will deselect some of those stars. Okay, that looks all right. Click OK. Then that's all the stars selected. Then we're going to go up to the top to Filter, to Other, click on Minimum. Make sure that Preserve Roundness is set to, Preserve is set to roundness, sorry, not squareness, because it's stars obviously. And then you can play with the radius, but this is about 0.5. I'm going to click OK. And if I deselect that, you should be able to see there that it's removed quite a lot of the stars. I think that looks pretty good, to be fair. So next thing I'm going to do then is my dodging and burning. So I'm dodging those highlights, not too much. And then burn. And we're going to get these dust lanes. Oh, no, see what I mean? That's just looking like a smudge now. So we'll take that back out. Okay, so what do I want to do? Let's go back to raw. Pull those highlights down, I'm going to pull those whites back up. A little bit of clarity into it, a little bit of contrast, although it is really getting quite dark now, the image, isn't it? Click OK. Right, so I'm going to look at the difference between the two. As you can see there's a load more detail in that one than in that one, although it does look like I could just add a lot more clarity onto this. Let's get a similar. Okay, not over the moon with that, to be perfectly honest. What I would tend to do is then save it into Lightroom with Command and S. So I'll go to Library, back to Desktop. And then that's the one we've just saved. I'm going to use my one that I've done in Astro Panel for this. I'm going to pull it back into Lightroom. And really I'm just going to do that for like some sort of final adjustments, but I tend not to do too much with it. What I'm going to do is go to Library, All Photographs, and then I've got that there. And I can then open it back into Lightroom with my foreground shot. So I've gone to my foreground shots. This is the first one of them. Look how dark it is. So there's the shadows. There's the car. I need to sort the I'm going to go purple with this. Sort that colour balance out. Yeah, that looks okay. I'm going to put some clarity into it. Not too much. Tiny bit of dehaze. I think it needs some noise reduction, which it definitely does. And I could do the profile on this one as well, actually. Samyang 14mm. Okay, so what we've got there then is that's my foreground image, and I'm going to select my Milky Way as well. Right click on them. Edit in, open as layers in Photoshop, and I'm going to show you how I put the Milky Way on top of the foreground. There we go, so I tend to put the Milky Way underneath the foreground, then select the foreground, come up to the quick selection tool, grab that sky, then click select and mask at the top, then go to the refine edge brush, and just run it along here, along that tree line, and let Photoshop do its thing. And you can see there is some red under here. It started to pull through stuff that we don't want. You could click the minus and then go back just along that edge to take those reds out, or we can just sort that in a minute. So what I then normally do is, I've spent ages messing around with all this stuff in the past, different global refinements, smoothing and all that. Got to a point now where I literally just put one in all of them. Then I click invert. So I've now got the foreground selected. Decontaminate the colours. And then I just change that to 10%. Very slow, and then click OK. So as you can see, the trees look a little bit funky there. There's a couple things here. If I just Command and T to move up the image, as you pull the light pollution up, it starts to look better already. What you can also do is just select this mask, go to the brush, select white, so you're painting back in the bottom, a reasonably large brush. Oh, it's too large. And opacity I've gone for 31%, and flow I've gone for 36, and then just give that a very light brushing over. And what that'll do is as well, it will introduce a little bit of the light pollution back in, which tends to make it look better as well. Right, so what I'm going to need to do here is get rid of all this, because as you can see there's the trees there and stuff like that, so I'm just going to stretch this out to get rid of those. I don't mind this little wispy bit too much, but I might get rid of it in a second. Okay, so there we've got my Milky Way on the back of the foreground, and I'm then just going to go up to crop, and I'm going to drag this up, and I'm going to get more of that Milky Way in. There you go. And then I'm going to flatten that image, Good to get rid of that line. And I'm just going to clone stamp out. You can see this funky bit here from the stack. That is cloud, and cloud does not stack well. So what have I gone for? I've gone for opacity at 55, flow at 27, click on the clone stamp tool, I'm going to select, click Alt and select an area, and I'm just going to paint that away. Okay, so here's the image. The only other thing I'm going to do is that red light in the car is annoying me. There, so I'm going to use the clone stamp again, much smaller size, smaller than that. And I'm just going to select from here, from the window, and I'm just going to paint that in. I think I want my flow higher than that. I've gone up to 66 on the flow and 55 on the opacity. Doesn't need to be perfect because we're going to be zooming right far out from this, but still, I think that'll do, to be fair. Zoom it back out. Yeah, hardly be able to notice that. Brilliant, right, so that's the, not quite the final image, but that's it in Photoshop now. I'm going to do Command and S. That'll jump me back into Lightroom. Here's my image, and then I'm just going to do some final adjustments. I definitely want a lot of vignetting on it. I am going to embrace the light pollution with a big radial filter there, and I'm going to blow that up, make that color temperature really warm. I think I want to change the bottom. I think I want that colder. Cold, but the top is quite. I think I want some more clarity in it. Yeah, should we stick a little dehaze in there as well? Why not? And I think I want some more overall contrast in it. Change the overall temperature a bit more, not that much. Just try and make it a bit more realistic. A bit more, a bit more contrast. I think I'm going to pull shadow down a little bit. No, this is anything. Add a little bit more clarity. This is one of the things where you just keep going and going, couldn't you? Let's do the sharpening. I always do the sharpening all the way to the top. I do the masking all the way to the top as well. And I think that's alright. I think that'll do, to be honest. I think I want more heat in here. There we go. Yeah, I think I'm quite happy with that. I think that'll do. I'm not sure at what point that run out of space on that card as well, but there was 38 minutes on that card, so it means I've been going for quite a while. I'll edit this down as quick as I can. Like, that's the workflow that I use to get to my final images, and that's what my final images looks like. So yeah, using that workflow, but going a lot slower and taking my time a lot more on it. So that's it. I hope it's helpful. Let me know if it is. Let me know if you do want any more editing tutorials, things like that. And if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you again soon. Take care.